I'm Amanda Midkiff, and this is the Locust Light Show, your gateway to creating potent plant magic in your everyday life. No matter where you are on your journey, I'm so glad you're here. It's time for me to tell you a story. The story of how Locust Light Farm came to be. Welcome! I was just making a cup of tea. Come on in. In 2013, I was 23 years old, and I moved to New Hope to help my friend Malika start a vegetable farm. We had worked together for a few years, and she wanted to start her career farm in Bucks County, and so I came with her. I had never been to the area before, I knew nothing about it, but I knew that I liked working with Malika, so I came. And we had an amazing year that year. We had so much fun. We had an incredible crew. They actually gave me this tea set for my birthday. We had many laughs. I always thought, we laugh more than anyone should be allowed to laugh at work. And we would always have these wonderful Monday night dinners where the whole crew would come to the house where Malika and I lived, cook a dinner, get ready for the week ahead. We had this amazing intern who would ride his bike to work. He didn't have a car, and he would bike to the farm from a house that was about 15 minutes drive from the farm and about 30 minutes drive from the house where Malika and I lived. And so after Monday night dinners, I would often put his bike in the back of my pickup truck and drive him home. And as I would drive him home on summer nights in June and July, when I was on my way back to my house, I would pass this field that was filled with fireflies. And it was just the most extraordinary sight. And I would often either drive as slow as I could, or if I was feeling brave, even just pull my truck over and sit by the side of the road and watch the lightning bugs that were flying over this hayfield. I loved it. I had a really fun time farming with the crew that year, but during the entire season, I had this deep angst, like this true 20-something-year-old angst that made me very emotional all the time, because I knew that as much as I loved vegetable farming and working with these people, it wasn't the exact right work that I was meant to do. And I'm someone for whom it's very important that my work aligns exactly with what I feel like I should be doing. So that winter, did a lot of soul searching, journaling, investigating, and I decided that winter that it was time for me to take my herbal studies, which had before that been very informal, to the next level, and it was time for me to enroll in a more formal herbal training program. And I also asked Malika if I could grow herbs on the veggie farm that she owned, where I continued working through 2014. And so as I moved into 2014, I enrolled in an herbal program, and I began growing medicinal herbs for the first time on Malika's farm for practice for myself. So as I'm figuring this out, slowly putting the pieces of the puzzle together, I'd like to grow herbs, I'd like to have an herb farm. I next had to figure out where to do that, which wasn't as easy of a question as one might think. I had moved to the New Hope area to start this veggie farm, and I had fallen in love with it. There was a poetry community, there was a farming community, there was a food community, restaurants. It was like very vibrant. But I didn't know that many people in the New Hope area yet. Aside from the connections I made through farming and then poetry, I didn't have a network. I didn't know a lot of other people who owned land, and I had only ever worked as a vegetable farmer since graduating college, so I did not exactly have a robust savings account or financial cushion with which to start my own business or acquire land in any way. I did have family up in northern New Jersey in a much more rural mountainous area, and I spent so much time thinking, should I move back there? Where should I be? Where should I try and start this farm? And this was a really hard decision. And there were a few things that helped me make that decision. One was, of course, my friend Malika, always coming in with the wisdom, who asked me if, would I ever want to go back and, spend a weekend back up there and just, do I like being there? And I realized when she said that New Hope had become the center of my universe. We all have, well, maybe not all of us, but I think if we're lucky, we have a part of the world that feels like the nexus, the hub around which the entire wheel turns. And within a short period of time, for me, that had become New Hope. I realized I didn't want to leave. And so I realized that I would have to figure out a way to find land where I could farm in New Hope, in this place where I knew almost nobody. So I sat down very carefully and made a list of exactly what the property would need. It would need space for me to grow, ideally a deer fence, some water for irrigation. And I thought that the building should have some outbuildings, and perhaps it would be owned by an older couple who used to farm it and don't farm anymore, would like a young person to come farm it. And they've got a lot of old outbuildings, and maybe, there's an older man who knows how to fix farm equipment and can teach me how to handle equipment and fix it and run all of, the tractors and everything. And I had just finished reading The Secret Life of Plants, and so I was filled with this deep conviction that plants are magic and they can do anything if you just communicate with them well enough. So I sat down on my altar, and I knew that in the part of Bucks County where we lived, there were all these farms that had been farmed by people in the past, and now they were either in hay or corn and soy, probably owned by people who were older. Maybe they were in the midst of farm succession to younger generations. Who knows how that was going? I don't know. I knew there were these fields all around, but I certainly didn't know who owned them. And I had already made a few phone calls to the few people I did know to try and reach out, make some connections, and nothing had happened with that. But I had in my awareness that there were a lot of fields that were not being intensely farmed, that were being farmed with large crops. So I sat down at my altar and I thought, okay, I can just ask the fields directly. And I thought, what piece of land around here do I feel the most connected to? And I thought about those hay fields that hosted the lightning bugs, the ones that I would drive past on Monday nights and just stop and enjoy the beautiful sight of the lightning bugs rising from the hay. So I sat on my altar, closed my eyes, and I reached my heart out to that hayfield and to the plants in that hayfield. And I mentally went within the bodies, within the blades of grass that was the hay, into the stems, down into the roots, into the leaves, and then into the trees that lined the hayfield. There was a forest beside it. And I really went within the bodies of those plants as much as my consciousness would allow. And I made my case. I said, my name is Amanda. I'm new to this area, and I would like a chance to care for a piece of land to the best of my ability. I would like the chance to pour my whole heart into a piece of land and to grow herbs there and to help the land express itself as it wants to, and to grow herbs to support and to heal and to delight my community. If you help me find a piece of land, I'll do everything I can to care for it and love it and give everything I've got to it. Please, please bring me home. I said, thank you. Went about my day. That was, I think, a Sunday night. On Tuesday, the landlords of the veggie farm came up to Malika to tell her that there was, an older farming couple that lived down the road who grew hay for mulch. And, were we interested in buying any mulch hay? And Malika was. And I thought, I wonder if this couple could be, the couple. At that time, I had Thursdays off from the veggie farm, and so I would spend Thursdays planting medicinal herbs on the farm, my own little herb garden. And so I asked Malika if we could go pick up this mulch hay on Thursday and I could introduce myself to this couple. I thought, if not them, they might have friends. They probably know people. And I practiced this speech with Malika so many times, how to introduce myself to these people, what to say, practicing saying hi, I'm Amanda, this is what I'm looking for. I was so nervous to talk to these people. If you've never met older, probably cantankerous farmer men. They can be very intimidating. So we drove over, pulled into the farm and got our hay, and the man was, quite gruff. But I did it anyway. I said, like, "Hi, my name's Amanda. I'm looking for about an acre of land to grow herbs on. I was wondering if you or anyone you knew, might know of a piece of property where I could make this happen." And he's like, "No, I don't know anyone like that." And I was like, "Okay, well, can I write down my phone number anyway? And then if you hear anything, give me a call." He's like, "Okay." And he scrounged around and found a piece of paper, and I wrote my phone number down, and he stuffed it in his shirt pocket. And I thought, well, never seeing that again. And we got in the truck, drove back to the veggie farm, and I thought, well, that was really good practice for me. I overcame this fear, and, I'm letting the universe know I'm serious. I'm putting it out there. So we drive back to the veggie farm, and I go back to my herb garden, and I was planting St. John's wort. And I remember I had the flat of St. John's wort seedlings that I had started from seed, and it looked so healthy, and I'm, putting them in the ground, and my phone rings. Wipe my hand off on my pants, take my phone out of my pocket, and he says, "Hi." He introduces himself, and he said, "My wife wants to talk to you." I was like, "Okay." Answer the phone, and his wife says, she introduced herself, and she says, "I have cancer. My sense of time is different right now. Why don't you come over right now?" I said, "Okay." So I put down my shovel, left the St. John's wort in the field, got back in my truck, drove over to the property, and met his wife. And she said that she had a garden that she had used for years, but now that she was ill, she didn't use it anymore. And as we were walking from their house to the garden, it very quickly went from, "You can use my garden," to "You can grow anywhere on this property." To say I was shocked, like, you cannot even imagine. This couple was going to welcome me onto their land and allow me to farm on their property. Like, amazing. They had a small greenhouse, they had outbuildings, they had tractors, there was a hose hookup, and they were going to let me farm there. Incredible. Went back to the farm, took care of the St. John's wort, and over the next few weeks I started getting to know this couple better. They were very kind. Older farmer man, still quite gruff, quite cantankerous, but really like kind heart, willing to help me. And this couple, they had stewarded this land organically since the 70s, which is like quite rare. And they had grown a whole variety of crops on it, from dry beans to basil that they sold to local restaurants. They had chickens, they had a personal garden, they did cut flowers. They were just this amazing presence in the community. And, they did care about wanting to help me get this business started. So then the question becomes, what do you name a farm? It's actually really hard to name a farm. Do you name it, the road that the farm is on? Do you name it something that has to do with what the farm does? Do you name it a value? What do you name the farm? And I knew that I wanted the name of my business to be something that would be flexible. So if the business were to move, which I figured it likely would, it wasn't attached to a location, and I wanted it to leave room for the business to change form and evolve, which I figured also probably would happen. And I wanted the name to be elegant yet strong. So at some point I went on a tour of the property with the owner, or the man. And I was keeping an ear out for anything that he might say that would, that would stick with me, because I also wanted the name of the property to somehow honor this couple who had stewarded it with so much care. Now, we were on a property that I had seen and that I knew that this couple owned, that was on one side of a road. When we went on the tour of the entire property, I learned they also owned the hayfield across the road and the forest on the side of the hayfield. Well, I tell you, that hayfield was the very same hayfield that I had reached out and connected to and asked to bring me home and to help me find land. It was the same hayfield that I had stopped and watched and enjoyed the lightning bugs, admired the forest, and just loved. So we walked around the hayfield, we walked through the entire forest. I'm listening for anything the man might say. And as we leave the forest again and go through the hayfield, and we're looking at the trees that line the hayfield, and he looks up and looks at the trees and he says, "This forest is filled with locust trees. My father said nothing could ever kill those." And in my heart, I just heard locust light, the locust trees and the lightning bugs. That is what locust light is, and that is how locust light came to be. The story is very special to me because it is my constant reminder in life that plants really can do anything, and they will listen to you if you ask them for help from a place of mutual respect and empathy, and you state your plea and you describe, how are you serving the plant world? How are you going to help them with this thing that you want? And it's just my constant reminder that magic is real, and it is so, so possible. And, gosh, plants are so friggin' powerful. And, this was if not my first, certainly my most poignant, and remains my most poignant experience with the magic that plants can do if you just connect to them. And this is, why I teach plant magic to this day. So I'll say, before we finish our tea, if you want to learn more about connecting with plants in this way, and you want to begin to step into this world of plant magic and learning how to enter into this relationship of mutual respect and mutual support, I offer a class called Plant Magic for Beginners that you can find on my website. It's like the opening of the door to working with plants in this way. And I'll leave you with that, and with the reminder that the earth and the lightning bugs and the locust trees and the hay fields and the mycorrhizal networks love you, and that you belong here.